Hello, stranger.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, what's your name?
Svi.
My name is Zev. Freeze. What happens when we go to a room full of people that we don't know? What are some of the questions that we usually ask these people when we first meet them? What's your name? What do you do? Where you from? You come in a room with 400 people. Brilliant people, people full of value. At about 4 questions, you start slowing down. What's your name? Where you from? What do you do? Where do you live? And that's it. Let me ask you a question. How many of you enjoy small talk? Small talk. Show your hand. How many of you enjoy small talk? Okay, so you guys can hook up a little later. You guys can hook up. Now, for the rest of you, how many of you, on the flip side, over the past 48 hours, have engaged in at least 3 conversations that you would perceive as small talk? Whoa, look around, look around, look around, look around. There's that gap. The conversations you're having, you're not enjoying and are not meaningful to you. The conversations you have are not enjoyable and are not meaningful. Now you're saying to yourself, okay, it's true, we get it. What does that have to do with the sales seminar? Now all of you appreciate sales, and that's what we're doing here. You're not selling a product. You're not selling a service. You're selling yourself to the other person. How do you sell? How do human beings sell themselves? Through meaningful connections, through conversations. The more powerful the conversation, the more powerful the connection. The more powerful and meaningful the connection, the more valuable your connection becomes, plus everything else in life. So your goal is to make connections. Connections that are meaningful connections, and that's what we're discussing here today.
Now, these are important concepts. We want to take these concepts and we want to put them together into real exercises that we're going to do here to help make them more realistic. Now, when you came into the room, you may have noticed on your seats, if you're further back, on the tables in front of you, that there are cards of various colors.
It looks like this, just a little bit smaller, okay?
You got green, blue, and
hold
purple.
it up.
Green, blue, and purple.
On your seat. Okay, so what basically, each card, there's one side has my logo, which is nice, and the other side has a question. They're all different. Okay? And basically, not now, but in a few minutes, we're going to ask you to get up, walk around the room, find somebody that you know the least, not the person you're sitting next to, because that person you know the most. That's why you're sitting next to him. We're going to find somebody who you know the least. You're going to walk over to him, introduce yourself, get his name, and then you're going to ask him the question on your card. Hi, Tzvi.
Hey.
What is one thing life is teaching you right now?
Slow down. Take it slow. Don't rush. You don't have to feel as if you have to jump into an answer immediately. Think about the question that they're asking you. Take the intention of the question. Then think about the answer that you're going to give. Don't just respond immediately. Think about it. And then give a real answer. And then you're going to ask the question that you have on your card back to them. Zev, what's one of the sweetest sounds in the world to you?
What is one of the sweetest sounds in the world to me? I'd have to say when my 3-year-old son laughs. And what's going to happen is that's the response I gave. He gave me his response. Then we're going to swap cards. I'm going to take his green card that he asked me. He takes my blue card. And what I'm going to do is then we're going to go find someone else with a card that you know the least, and you're going to do the same routine again. And that's what we're going to do. Now, at this point, some of you are thinking, this is going to be a little awkward, right? So I'm going to predict one of 2 responses that you have right now. Number 1 response is, oh, great, new people and questions. And the other half of you are like, oh, great, new people and questions.
That's me.
So what we need to do is help you by infusing choice into this experience. And the choice is going to be two ways to make choice. Now remember, there are three cards here: green, purple, and blue. The green cards tend to be light and fun. The questions are light and fun. The purple cards require a bit of reflection. You may have to pause for a moment. And the blue cards are deeper. So the first choice that you can do to alleviate some of that awkward pain that you're going to feel is when you walk by somebody and you got your green card and you're about to look for somebody who has a blue card and you're not in the blue card mood, you just want to duck and pass. That's it. Go to the next guy. Okay? That's what you want to do. And you'll find somebody who has a purple card, a blue card, which he's holding up to connect with. That's your first choice to alleviate some of that pain that you may be feeling. The second way to alleviate the awkwardness and anxiety that many of you may be having about meeting new people and asking somewhat of a deeper question is, before I asked Svi, what is one thing life is teaching you right now? That's a pretty heavy question. You know what life is teaching me right now? That when you speak at a conference, wear sunglasses, because I can't see with these lights. That's what life is teaching me right now. It's really true. It's really bothersome. And that's a true answer. That's what life is teaching me right now. I allowed the listener, my partner, into one little door. But there's another choice you can do, and you can say, what is one thing life is teaching you right now? This is another door that's going to assume some kind of social risk. Life is teaching me now that after the past 6 months, I knew 3 people who unfortunately passed away due to corona. And I'm appreciating life now in a deeper way. And that's also true. That's a different door that I allowed to be opened by choice. So we're going to ask you, because there's a reason why you all came today. We're going to ask you to assume the social risk, stretch your emotional comfort zone, and maybe go a little deeper from what you would usually have done outside of these 4 walls. Because we're here together for a reason, to learn how to make real connections with people which are valuable, and here's the word, genuine. Genuine connections is what we're looking for. People want to connect with you in sales and every part of life if you feel that they're genuine. So when you open that door, which is a little bit uncomfortable emotionally for you, you're allowing a genuine connection. That's what allows you to continue creating valuable connections.
Now, we're going to role play in exercise 1 exactly what that looks like. So you're going to take your card that you have in front of you, and you're going to find someone in the room that you are not familiar with. You're going to go over to them. You're going to ask them that question with real sincerity, and then you're going to listen to their answer, and then they're going to ask you their question, and you're going to answer them with real sincerity and genuineness, and then you're going to exchange cards. You're going to swap. And you're going to find somebody else now to take that original question that also you are not familiar with, ask it to them, listen with intent, be motivated to make a real connection. And then after about 10 minutes of everybody mingling and asking questions and giving answers, then you're going to hear us say, "Are you present?"
So
and
we're going to practice
answer,
now.
"We are present."
Ready? So practice now. I'm going to say, "Are you present?"
We are present.
Excellent. So right now, everybody take your card, stand up, everybody stand up, find someone you know the least, go engage, find his name, ask the question, respond, and then swap cards and find someone
The default
else.
method that most people have for listening is listening to win.
Listening to win. What does that mean, listening to win? If I meet someone and I say, "Hi, where you from?" And they say, "Oh, I'm from Boston." Boston? I got a second cousin who once drove through Boston. Stop. What am I doing when I do that? Why would I do that? Why would I say about my second cousin driving through Boston? Because people want to feel that they belong. We have a commonality. So I go to my ungoogleable brain and heart. I find experiences to connect with you in order for you to feel like we're the same. We both know Boston. Now, you're well-intentioned and you want to connect. But what is exactly happening when you talk about your second cousin driving to Boston? You move the focus from that person to me. The focus was you're from Boston, and now you're taking that and say the focus is on me now. My second cousin, and he drove through Boston. The problem with that, although you're trying to make a connection, it's a very shallow connection. We're looking for value. We're looking for connections that are going to give us real value. It only works when you're genuine, when there's a realness. So you're trying that thing is good. The Jewish geography, we figured out. But what you're doing is you're shifting the focus from him to you. And unfortunately, it's not going to get the desired results that we're doing right now. So what we need to do is change listening to win to
listening to understand. Listening to understand is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Now, when you get somebody, when you have that conversation, when you feel what they're giving off and you have meaningful connection with them, it changes your perspective, their perspective, that makes a connection you did not have before, and the results are incredible. Incredible. I'm going to tell you a story. There was a CEO of a company, and he had this presentation given in front of his company because he had employees that needed that lift up, that change in their communication style so they could listen to understand. And he had one woman working in this company, and he thought she was a terrible employee. Her branch had not produced anything. Ineffective, bad leadership, everything negative that bosses looked to get rid of, it was her, and he wanted to fire her. But he knew that in a previous company, she had been fired, and she sued the company for a tremendous amount of money, and he couldn't afford that because it was still in its infancy. It was a young company. And he had this exact experience, similar learning, and she came in, and he learned, and he was paired with her accidentally 3 times. And during those communications, he learned something because he listened to understand. And what he learned was this was an incredibly powerful, effective employee, a major asset to his company. The problem wasn't her. The problem was that he had created an infrastructure in his company to run a certain way that he thought was best, and she did not get along with that infrastructure. And so he flew out to where her branch was located, and he changed the infrastructure to meet her needs because he finally understood her. And the change was incredible. All of a sudden, he had 2 quarters from that company where they were more profitable than they ever were before. In fact, it was the most profitable entire company. And that's what I want you to take away from this. I want you to take away that when you use the tools and you're not afraid to ask more in-depth, powerful questions and make real connections with the person you're talking to, the results will be incredible.
So when we're talking about listening to understand, the second level of this workshop is going to do the same thing we did now. We're going to take out our card, we'll look around for someone we know the least, and we're going to engage. Ask their name, ask the question, but this time we're using the skill of listening to understand, and we're not listening to win. This is the default. All of us do default listening to win. In fact, I want to ask you a question. What is the opposite of listening? Waiting to talk. That's the opposite. Because when you speak to somebody, so how are you? And the guy's talking, you go, okay, when are you going to stop? When are you going to stop? So I can just get my words in. I want to get all my knowledge into you, and I want to tell you how great I am, and blah, 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 blah. We got to stop that, get rid of listening to win, and start listening to understand. So we're going to do the same exercise now. Take our card, look for someone we know the least, find him, ask the name, ask the question. But this time, we're going to listen to understand. And when you do that, something may happen. You may actually be interested in what they're saying. And you may want to just ask like a follow-up question because it's actually interesting, because you're trained your ears to listen to understand. And when you do that, then we're going to come back. We're going to do a wrap-up. And again, the goal is to use the skill now of listen to understand. So right now...
And listen for, are you present? When
right.
we say that,
We need you back. So right now, everybody stand up, get your card, listen to same exercise, but now listen to understand. Go.
We're standing up here to tell you that not only is it nice to see that people are not afraid to ask powerful questions, it's incredible to see that everyone here is energized to ask powerful questions and to make meaningful connections by listening and learning to understand each other. And more importantly, that asking those powerful questions, being energized about them, and making those meaningful connections turn into valuable communications that you can utilize.
So I'm now going to ask you one question. I'm going to ask you to absorb that question and hold it in your mind for 10 seconds while you formulate your answer. And then I'm going to popcorn out a couple of answers, and we're going to wrap up. One question, 10 seconds to absorb the question, formulate in your own mind what your answer to this question is. And here we go, one question. We had 2 segments of this exercise of learning to communicate, make valuable connections. And then the second segment was same concept, except we're trained ourselves to listen to understand. What struck you between the first conversation you had and the second conversation when you were focused on listening to understand? Question again. One question. 10 seconds, absorb, and think of your answer. Between the first conversation you had and the second conversation, which you were focusing on listening to understand, what struck you more than the first conversation? What struck you more?
Will to relate to each other.
Connection. There was a relationship that you didn't have. Yes?
Actually learned a lot of things.
Actually learned a lot of things. More interested in them. What changed? What struck you more? I'm sorry?
I finally listened to somebody.
Finally listened to somebody.